Welcome to More Than Legal, the show where we go behind the scenes to uncover the fine print of power, purpose, and profit. I'm your host, attorney Danielle Laughlin. After almost 2 decades in the trenches of courtrooms and boardrooms, I have learned that every move leaves a mark and every deal tells a story. What will we uncover today? Let's find out. Hey, real quick, before we dive into the episode, remember, nothing you hear on this podcast is intended to be legal, financial, or tax advice. I invite you to contact any of the guests you hear by looking in the show notes for their contact information, or if you'd like to reach out to me, you can find my contact information at daniellelaughlin.com. All right, now let's get into it. Hey, welcome back to More Than Legal. I'm your host, Danielle Laughlin, and I am so excited to bring on a great entrepreneur, an all-around really good guy, and somebody I am calling a friend, a new friend who I met recently and immediately felt, wow, what an incredible gift to the world. This is Brandon Hatton. He has an amazing story he's going to share with you about who he is and how he got to where he is now. But the reason I thought he would be a great guest for you is because he is a wealth manager and, more importantly, a conscious wealth manager. In fact, the name of his company is Conscious Wealth. And I have had the privilege of seeing Brandon speak. He is an author, and he puts on some really great events, very intimate, curated events that I've had the great privilege and honor of attending. And I think that Brandon is going to bring such a sigh of relief, probably, to our audience in terms of thinking about the great big question of wealth building. And so I'm excited to talk with you today, Brandon. Why don't you share with the audience what you want them to know about you, kind of how, who you are, and a little bit about your entrepreneurial journey.
Yeah, well, thank you. Thanks for having me. Thank you for all the kind words and the friendship. A little bit about me. Look, I don't know where to start, but I was telling someone today, I grew up in Cleveland, Ohio, and my dad and his father had a restaurant for over 50 years. So that was kind of the grassroots entrepreneur and immigrant story that I come from. And that story is pretty important to me. It's actually quite important to me and becomes increasingly important with everything that's happening today, or the way that we start to see the world. And as a kid, I didn't really think much of it. But then as I've gone through life, and it's funny how you look back and you're like, oh yeah, even when I was a teacher, which was my first career, I opened a school in Egypt. I taught in Lebanon for 2 years. And I taught in Brazil for 4 years, and I opened a photography studio, all before becoming a wealth manager. And even when I was working for other people, I was just going out on my own and doing my own thing and trying to do things differently. And sometimes I didn't even know. So and now I find myself in the world of wealth management. I began doing it like everybody else did, working with the big companies that we all know about. They're named after a couple guys, usually, not always. Couple men, until I broke free on my own. And so it is important for us to do wealth management differently. And that was one of the reasons we went independent, so that to open an independent registered investment advisory firm so that we could do things differently. So we are a wealth management firm. We're equal parts community developers. We're equal parts advisors, like CFOs, trying to helping clients scale their businesses or exit their business and go on to the next thing. So that's a little bit. Yeah.
It's great because, like you said, there are a lot of large companies. That's where a lot of wealth managers and advisors start. And there's a lot of different, acronyms out there too. And I'm guilty, even though I play in this world and I, as a business attorney, I deal with a lot of different financial professionals. But I do think that there's still a shroud of mystery, and there's always a little bit of a nuance between like what a wealth manager is, what an advisor is, what's the difference? There's fiduciary duties. There's roles that don't carry fiduciary duties and that sort of thing. help the audience understand what conscious wealth is from kind of that more technical perspective. And if you could share, obviously, we respect the confidentiality of your clients, but just a little bit about what your client portfolio kind of looks like so they
Sure.
get an idea of more the technical side of what you do.
Yeah, so we made a conscious choice to remain a fiduciary when we went independent. So what that means is, most practically speaking, is that we always must act on the client's best interest. And one of the ways that we can prove that is we do not do transactional business. So that means we do not say, if you buy this, I'm going to charge you this, but if you buy that, I'm going to charge you this. So it creates an alignment of interest, so we don't charge per transaction. In the wealth management world, that's the easiest way to prove it. There are other barriers among it. Any of the big firms that we're talking about, these really big firms that we all know, and they're on the Super Bowl ads or on TV, they are not. They do not have to act within the client's best interest. And so that's the specific part of it. Our clients are almost exclusively entrepreneurs who are scaling a business, or have exited a business and are wondering, what do I do next? Do I open another business? Almost all of them want to see the world a better place. Some of them do that through philanthropy. Some of them do it through impact investing, and some of them do it through business. We have clients who open businesses just to give people jobs and to help them create a life of dignity. And some of our clients do all three of those, right? And so that's the common thread. We like to say our clients are like-hearted. We don't say they're like-minded, because they disagree and see the world in different ways than us in countless ways. And that type of diversity is welcomed.
That's fantastic. I'm so glad you bring that up too, Brandon, because sometimes, and I'll just speak as a woman, right? And you have a family of immigrants, right? And so when you're kind of an outsider coming into the world of wealth, you're an entrepreneur who's built a little bit of traction, a little bit of wealth, and maybe you haven't been in those exclusive rooms or had those exclusive types of relationships before. It can feel transactional. It can feel like there's a barrier because maybe you don't agree on every issue potentially. And so I'm glad that you bring up the inclusivity of what you do, because money flows to where it can be most useful. And there's a myriad of ways that money can contribute to value creation. But money itself is not the only form of value. And so I love that you've incorporated that into your business model, and that you invite diversity of perspective from your clients, and you don't try to impose any kind of worldview, except maybe that wealth building should be done for the right reasons, right? Which I'd love to hear a little bit more for the audience sake around that philosophy of, because you've mentioned in your talk, you talked about wealth being more than dollars. It's your physical health, it's your relationships. Can you talk a little bit more about those ideas around wealth?
I can, but I would like to comment on what you said, and clarify from my point of view, which may be aligned. Money flows to where it's most useful when the organizational structure is aligned with nature. So our company, we try really hard to build a company based on the laws of nature. And so when that happens, the money does flow that way. If I organize my life aligned with nature, then money, I believe, will flow towards me. Right now, money is flowing. If you look at the organizational structures of some governments, those organizational structures are not aligned with nature. And so when that happens, money flows maybe not into healthcare, maybe not into healthy eating, and maybe into killing machines, right? So I think that is the opportunity with money, because money is energy. And so if we align the external structures and incentives towards laws of nature or natural ways of living, or intuitive ways of living, then I do think that happens. I think it's also important to note that yes, let me see what else. I'll go to the. Let's just go to the other point that you said, which is wealth is composed so much more of money. And you're right. Thank you for pointing that out. At Conscious Wealth, we talk about the 4 pillars of wealth. One of them is financial. The other is our physical health. So without our health, who cares how much money we have, right? And then unfortunately or fortunately, it takes whatever, it takes a lot of money to remain healthy in this world. So they play off one another. There are connections, so our family, our loved ones, the people we work with, our community, our neighbors. And then there is our perspective, the way they see the world. And these 4 pillars create it creates a more expansive view of wealth. And some of it, most of it, you can't measure. Sure, I can measure my blood pressure or my resting heart rate, or I can measure how much money I have in my bank account, but those don't mean that I'm healthy or wealthy. Those are just one indicators. And so you're right, we do convene a lot of people and we talk about what is the gooey space in between things that we can't measure, but do have a more expansive view of wealth. And that's really important for us.
Absolutely. And I appreciate the clarity around the flow, right? Because as you said, there are laws of nature. We see them play out every single day, right? We have 4 seasons. There is a life cycle, right? There's a life cycle of everything we do and everything in nature, if we will take the time to understand and be part of that. And then there are unnatural flows of money, which ultimately, in my view, become value extractors, right? And they actually don't build anything more, and they deteriorate potentially what we do have. And I think sometimes too, there's like what I'm seeing now in the marketplace. There's money can stagnate. All right, so yeah, talk about it. Tell me what you think.
I want to give a really practical example, because if somebody may be listening and be like, what does that mean a company is aligned with nature? I'll just give one example of something we did last year, which goes to one of the questions you'd like to ask: what helped us create a lot of growth in our company? So one of the things we had when we were first working, we're a 5-person team right now, and there were all of these forms of hierarchy within our company that weren't necessarily doing us any favors. So, and hierarchy doesn't really exist in nature. And somebody said to me in return, well, like, what about the lion? The lion's the king of the jungle. And I said, well, who gave him that name? Well, we did. The lion doesn't go around and say, I'm the king of the jungle. And the lion just doesn't go around killing for fun, right? What we did at the end of last year was flatten hierarchy within the team. And we did away with a lot of titles, and we gave people roles. What are you responsible for? And a role to me is something that is very in tune with nature. People say, oh, this is what I'm going to do. It's not who I am. What does head of marketing mean, as an example? I don't know, but what is an implementer, like what is, if I know what my role within the marketing structure or my role within wealth management is. So all of the people on my team, including myself, have a wealth management title. Some of our wealth management titles have a focus, some of our wealth management advisors have a focus in operations. The other has a focus in investing. And so that's a very specific example that I wanted to give, because otherwise it seems kind of obtuse or maybe hippie or whatever these words that somebody may hear, but it's actually quite practical. And what I saw when we aligned our structure of the company with nature is people lit up. They knew what their role was, they knew what their responsibility was, and there wasn't a positioning to get a title or something. Now, we may grow to a point, we're still a boutique shop. We love that we're a boutique shop. We have a select number of clients. We're careful on who we pick up. We may grow to a point where we may introduce hierarchy again, but for right now, it's really working for us.
I love that.
Yeah.
And you see that too. I think if you think about families, one of the things I'm also saying is this multifamily office structure, right? Where you may have some entrepreneurs who maybe this generational business ownership, and there is a substantial amount of wealth, but not necessarily enough wealth to create what we would consider a traditional family office style, where you're the one employing that whole group of professionals to help you. And so kind of this fractional or multifamily office idea is coming around and being talked about more. And when I think about that, I think about exactly what you're saying from the nature standpoint too, which is similar to our firm. We're boutique, and we also don't have hierarchy like that. I mean, yeah, it's like you're doing this thing and you're not doing this other thing, right? Like that's handled. But then you can niche even within those verticals of ownership, right? And create more disparate and niched focus. That seems to be something that happens as those family structures grow and the business structures grow, because they get more complicated. Then a hierarchy maybe has to form. And I think this brings me to the idea of, let's say you're faced with an opportunity or a client that could take you to that next level. It could take you from boutique to, whatever, multi-state or whatever that might look like for you. Talk to us about, and maybe this has occurred, maybe it hasn't occurred yet. Talk to us about how you use your principles to say no, maybe to opportunities that aren't necessarily aligned with what you're trying to achieve. Has anything like that happened to you that you could share with our audience?
Well, I mean, certainly we've turned down business. I think most of our clients will self-select out of our business model. We have turned down business. I've turned down, I mean, there's two notable times where a client didn't treat our team with respect, and we just decided not to do business with them. And it wasn't punitive in nature. It was done with respect. But there's just, I as the CEO of the company need to ensure that my team feels safe. So if my team doesn't feel safe or feel respected, and we can't come to an agreement on what respect is, then that's a pretty easy one. A lot of people say, I don't like the no beep holes rule. Like, I have a no beep holes rule, right? I don't want to swear on your podcast. So I'm going to beep myself. And I'm like, no, that's a little too low of a bar. It's like, I want to work with like-hearted, kind individuals who want to have a positive impact in the world. I want to work with them. I want them around me, because they're going to make me a better person. They're going to make my team a better person. They're going to come into the Center for Conscious Wealth in Atlanta, Georgia, and connect with other people who do that. We have had an opportunity to bring on a really one of the wealthiest people, a client who is one of the wealthiest people in the world, and we turned it down. It's not our business model. We don't want that to be our business model, because it would take away from what we do. We work with entrepreneurs who are scaling or exiting a business, and we're not working with one of the top 1,000 wealthiest families in the world. Even a piece of their pie we don't want, because it's just not what we do, and it would constantly take my team to do off the playing field of helping our clients. We at this point do not aspire to be a multifamily office. The multifamily office is pretty clunky to us. So clunkiest, the big brokerage firms, because you're only working with their people. Family offices are pretty clunky, but if you got $1 billion or $200 or $500 million, maybe it makes sense. The multifamily office is still pretty clunky. They say, these are our 10 people, work with these 10 people. What we're building, and you're part of, is a virtual family office, which is You want to work with a estate attorney? We have 3 of them that we vetted, we like, they'll get us discounts. And if you don't like one of those, they're not on my payroll. We'll get someone else. And so I don't want a CPA on my payroll. I don't want an attorney on my payroll, on and on and on. I just want to have a really close relationship, and I know that they will serve my clients. And I think they'll be able to serve it in a more versatile, aligned way than a multifamily office. And so that's just not even, we could build it. It's just not what we want to do. And it's not the lifestyle that we want to build for ourselves.
This is a really important conversation more and more for me as I grow older, as my clients grow older, we get more success, we get more, wealth and access. And I was recently at an event with other entrepreneurs, and the multifamily office question was brought up. And it was, in fact, a room where an MFO was presenting essentially about it. And it was interesting to me because I'll give it to you like this, and I'm putting you on the spot with this because you weren't expecting. I told you I don't follow a script. I am a little bit of a but so basically it was shocking. I sat kind of as a fly on the wall, and at some point I tried to direct the conversation differently. And let me explain what I'm talking about. So the room the MFO is there presenting. It's a room of entrepreneurs of various degrees of success. Some people in the room you would know right away as soon as I told you the business that they own. Other people in the room are more obscure, like me or you, in a more boutique type of situation. But everybody in the room has success and wealth to some degree that is above and beyond what most people anticipate at a various stage of life. And the number one question that was brought up was, should I leave my money to my kids? Okay. Yeah. And so this is the only question that really got any traction over the course of an hour or so.
Yeah.
And every person in the room had a different perspective.
That's right.
Right. So some people were like, I'm not giving anything. Some people were like, I'm giving everything. I'm giving it now. I'm giving it later, whatever.
Yeah. Those are good questions.
Yeah, great questions. And what I found is exactly going to the point you're making about the MFO, which is every family is going to answer that question differently. But if you have a room, like in this particular room, there were, from the MFO perspective, they have a very niche situation because they are we were in Utah, so they're basically LDS families, essentially, right? And so the values of those families in a situation like that are very similar and probably pretty well aligned. But if you take the same cohort or number of families, for example, in Metro Atlanta, where we live,
sure,
you probably aren't going to be able to find an easy alignment on those values in terms of investment strategies and how to set things up. So I kind of bring that in to say, I deeply appreciate your transparency around that idea, which is an MFO can be easy. It's easy to say yes to that because it's like going to Walmart with the grocery store or Target with the grocery store, and you're like, I'm going to get everything. The pharmacy's there. They even have clothes, it's like everything you need. And it's like, that's so convenient. Or I could go to a bunch of different stores, right, and get a more unique experience for that particular need. And everybody answers that differently. So I want to bring this to the audience that are mostly entrepreneurs for us too, although they're investors as well. And I told you I had talked with Alexander McCoben about this too. Mm-hmm. So all that to get to this question, which I think you're going to really shed a lot of light on. When entrepreneurs are struggling in a world that is always trying to take their dollars, like everybody wants their dollars, and they know that they need to be responsible about who they trust their money with, and their health and other things too. But specifically, I'm a business lawyer and you're a wealth manager. So we're talking about assets, right? When they're thinking about that question, can you help them think through mindset of maybe I haven't established exactly what my strategy is? How can I get clear about my strategy, at least what I know about it, what I feel about it, so that I can start looking for the right group or individual, boutique, whatever, that can help me?
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. So I think the big thing to think about is, would I get a multifamily office because I need it, or because Skip and Chip have it at the club? Is
Right.
this an ego thing to say that I'm in a multifamily office? Because if it's just an ego thing and you want to pay for it, fine. But do you need it? Or actually, what are your needs? And so, for instance, something that we take a lot of pride in is that we have a licensed therapist, a facilitator. She does divorce mediation for us. She does business partner mediation for us. We've done family facilitation and family meetings. And that is a really good resource for our clients. 2% of them. And that 2% is different than the following 2% the next year, in the next year. And so I think what's really important is to understand, what are your needs and how do I get my immediate needs set with the flexibility to bolt on. And that's what we do is, okay, let's bring in Alyssa, our facilitator, our trusted partner on this, for this case for 1 year. And then and then she can move on to other cases. Likewise, we do not need an estate plan on file, on retainer all the time. Sure, it's nice to say I have that, but our clients go through phases. And so the type of flexibility is really important. So the real question is, what are my needs? And it doesn't matter. Like, I think, if I'm being honest, is there's a lot of ego around being able to say, I have a multifamily office, I have a family office, that is way more overvalued than the service that they provide. And what's important to understand is, what do I need? And where can I get that? And you're really trying to build up this core team. Your tax team is always there. Your legal team is always there. Your financial team is always there. But then everything else is going to change all the time. And so it doesn't make sense to me, it makes sense to build that core team out. And to trust them. And the only way to trust them is, honestly, to sit down and spend time with them. Like, we invite clients all the time to the center. Say, oh, I don't know if I want to do business. I say, come to the center, come to one of our salons, come to one of our dinners, come have a coffee with me, get to know us. We want to see if we want to do business with you, and vice versa. That trust isn't established by a portfolio review. It isn't established by glossy marketing material, which we don't have. But am I answering your question?
Absolutely. Nailed it. And you nailed it, because you bring up the word ego, right? And I actually have a talk, ethics over ego, right? And I think sometimes people hear ego, and the wrong people, maybe I'll say, the wrong people hear ego and they feel offended. How dare you say that to me? But the right people hear ego and they say, oh, whoa, I need to slow down here. I need to ask some deeper questions of myself. And I think that you bringing that up, it just really drives home something that we try to instill in our clients as well, because just like you, we're fiduciaries to them. And
Yeah.
we try to tell them, I always get the question, and I'm sure you get this question all the time too. What would you do? And I'm like, I'm not you.
Sure.
I don't have your business. I can tell you what your options are, and I can tell you the results you can expect from those options. And I can help you strategize about which would be the best in an imperfect world with no crystal ball.
Yeah.
And together we can make an informed decision, and we can trust each other through that process that it's the best decision.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end of the day, you know that I have to look out for your best interests, but I can't tell you what those are.
Yeah.
And so I appreciate that you slow people down there to say, check your ego here. Getting into an MFO, it's like buying the Ferrari. You mentioned your car earlier. Could you let's go there? This is
ego for a second. I'm sorry. You keep going on to the next question, and I'm like,
okay. I'll keep it open.
What a gift of money is to let go of your ego. Like, if you don't use money to release some of your ego, what a waste of it. How humbling is it to have money? I mean, to really, to walk on the streets, to live in this world with wealth, financial wealth, that should be, in and of itself, should be humbling. Like, how was I chosen? Like, right now, how was I chosen to be part of a family that didn't stay in Lebanon? How was I chosen? We can go on and on and on. But also, the amount of physical comfort that wealth can provide me and health gives me so much more space in my life to not take myself so seriously. It gives me so much space in my life to not cling on to other things that other people may feel the need to cling on to, or I may have felt the need to cling on to before. Titles, recognition, my reputation. I can let go a lot of that stuff because I have so much safety that wealth provides me. And so I just challenge myself to think about, how can I let my financial assets allow me to let go of my grip on who I think I am and who I have to be in the world.
Oh, it's so powerful what you just said. I think your experiences too lead to that sort of pathway too, because when you know what it's like to be at the bottom, you know how that there is a way to humble, I guess is what I'm saying, because you've already been humbled, right? So like, I know for my journey, it's like, I've already been humbled by what it looks like when I didn't have wealth. And so I had a goal. What is money? How do I get it? How do I keep it? And then how do I help other people find it and keep it too? And that was always my mission and goal personally. So I know that there's so much value in what you're saying here. And hopefully we've had some listeners that are tapping in on that and are.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to hear how people are doing it. I'd love to hear how people are doing it. Yeah.
It's hard. It's every single day. And that's one of the things I talk about too, which is, look, I'm not saying I don't have any ego. I have plenty of ego. I'm a lawyer. I've got plenty of ego that I need to, humble myself over. But it's a vigilance of staying aware and being transparent and having accountability around it. And I know that there is a lot of pressure out there. In the entrepreneurial world, there's pressure to make money. There's pressure to get the house, get the car, send the kids to the Ivy Leagues, all that. There's a lot of pressure there. But we work so hard to get to that place of freedom that then that becomes its own prison sometimes. And I think what you're saying is, get yourself out of the prison you've created for yourself, which is driven by ego usually.
Yeah. So in my book titled the same as the business Conscious Wealth, I talked about enrichments and enhancements. And so enhancements are material goods, right? So so an enhancement may be a car for me. I use that as a common example. It could be, sorry, I don't know why I'm getting distracted. So we have these enhancements of these material objects that just make our life a little bit easier. This morning for me, it was a scone and a cup of coffee. And so what I try to do in my life is have just enough of these material goods that I can live a life of fulfillment, that it doesn't take away from it, that I can let go of so many other things. And it's like, how can I pare down these material things in a way that just enough for me to be comfortable enough, but not too comfortable. I'm not sure I'm really being super clear on that, but
I understand what you're saying because it's about attachment, like you said, right? Yeah. Because the material world will cause us to attach ourselves to it, but we all know the truth, which is that we will leave this material world someday. I mean, regardless of our belief system around what happens next, right? So I think
Yeah.
what you're saying is, the material world is a beautiful thing, and you should relish the success you've had by creating a life that provides enough comfort for you to be a reward for that hard work, but not so much that it does become that prison, and I kind of think that's how I interpret what you're saying anyway. I'm not sure if that's exactly what you were trying to convey, but that's what I heard from what you said. So tell me, Brandon, as we kind of close out here, when you're working with entrepreneurs, as clients, but really you are a teacher. You said it yourself. You began as a teacher. You have a passion for teaching people about these principles. Give us some parting wisdom for those who are maybe struggling around some of the big questions of their wealth and what to do with it. What would you invite them to start with first? And then in that same vein, how can they get in touch with you to see if what Conscious Wealth has to offer might be helpful to them?
Yeah, great. Well, let's start with the lead. Brandon at consciouswealth.com. That's easy.
Great.
Get that out of the way. I encourage two things. One, I encourage people to look at things on a spectrum of outcomes, whether it's what's the market going to do? We have a spectrum of outcomes. It's not going to do one thing or the other. But the same as a spectrum of outcomes I alluded to before. Do I have to give all my money to my kids, or do I have to give it all to charity? Well, there's all these other things in the middle that we can talk about. We can invest in more businesses that have create dignity in people's lives. We can sell our businesses to our employees through an employee ownership trust or an ESOP and allow them to have generational wealth. We can have impact investments, which are philanthropically minded businesses, but have a financial return, albeit maybe with concessionary types of returns. And we can give money away, and we can give our time away. And so there's this entire spectrum of things, whether the question is, how much money do I give my kids? How much is enough? Or should I open my next business? All of these things have a spectrum. And I think what's really easy in the world is to think yes or no, right? Because then you can just move on to the next thing. But that's not the way that the world works. That's not the way that nature works. There's an entire spectrum. So I encourage people to do that. And then, I spoke with a young entrepreneur last week. And the advice I give him, and I give anyone who is in that grind, because a lot of our clients is I tell them that all is well, and all manner of things, all shall be well. And I really do believe that. It's Julianne of Norwich. It's this idea that just stick to the process. And even if whatever you're doing fails, it's going to lead to something else, and it's going to lead to something else. And I believe that. I believe in hope, and I believe in optimism and positivity, and I do believe that when we take care of others, we'll be taken care of, and all shall be well.
Beautiful advice, Brandon. Thank you so much. This has been such a pleasure. It's been great to know you and to learn more about you and Conscious Wealth and your team.
Thanks. I got a phenomenal team.
You have a great team.
Yes.
And some of them came to our gala last year and partied it down with us. And it's just a really great group of people. You've introduced me to some of the deepest souls I've ever met. Thanks. And so it's just an honor to have you here today to share you with our audience and the world. We will put all of your contact information there in the show notes. Please check it out. Check out Conscious Wealth. Like I said, Brandon has a book. Brandon has a great business. It's a boutique business. But if what you heard today aligns with where you are and what you're trying to do to go to the next level and leave the world a better place, I invite you to reach out to Brandon. And Brandon, thank you so much for sharing all of your great insights.
Thanks.
Bye for now.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the show. Remember, stay sharp, stay curious, and stay tuned for our next episode. Bye for now.